Alright, hello, we are back taking a tour of a number of different types of sites in northern Minnesota. Right now we're on a very, very dry fire dependent site. Very little moisture, very little fertility. And well, how do we know that? First of all, one of our indicator plants is sweet fern, Peregrina Comptonia. Lancelet-like leaves, dentate margins, but really the best part of about this plant is the smell. Oh, it's just delightful. Here, try it at home. Yeah, we should nose to the camera, or nose to the, yeah. See, isn't that good? Yes, inhale, inhale. Okay, sweet fern here. If you took down, you'll see there are a number of lichens. Okay, very, very dry soils. Digging a little bit, mostly sand, a few particles of lichen, and lichens just breaking down and helping to make some soil, trying to make this a better world. But what do we find here? Other than the lichens and a few scattered hawkweeds, we've got some regeneration, but this should be jack pine here, red pine here. This should be intolerant species heaven. There's plenty of light. There's all sorts of space. Why do we have just an occasional jack pine or some sort of a pine? Here we've got jack. Here we've got a red pine. We've got another jack pine here, a fairly large one. This is best we can tell, this is a dead balsam poplar. I mean, this is a tough life. This one, don't worry, we wouldn't give you anything like this for a quiz, okay? But this is rough. If we note, we talked earlier about it being fire dependent. Jack pine here with the serotinous cones. On this particular individual, some are serotinous, some are not. If we were to pan up into the crown, we see that there are more and more serotinous cones towards the top. I think by now we should know that those serotinous cones are a function of, are an adaptation to that fire-dependent site, that they will hold seed there. And as dry as this site is, we might see fire frequencies as often as 5 or 10 years. In a natural setting, that fire would build up, collect on these dead branches because jack pine is intolerant. These branches tend to die off. They don't get enough light because the branches above are shading them. As they die off and become dry, they're perfect fuels. You can get this group of dead branches to carry a fire that might jump here to this, and then all of a sudden it's off to the races. If it can get into the crown and get even to the live needles. In fact, if I had a lighter or even a match, this might be fun. But even though these needles are green, they're full of volatile oils. And if they're near a heat source, they'll eventually give off enough volatile compounds that will ignite. So if you're looking for, well, you can entertain yourself with small branches in a campfire. You'll see them just kind of go poof and start off. But in a crown fire, in a real wildfire, that creates a huge problem because this whole tree can ignite and the wind can carry that fire through the forest or to the next tree and to the next one. What it does though, does two things. The frequency and heat of that fire will open these cones, drop them, the seed on the ground, and the fire on the ground is consumed what's here and left just bare mineral soil, which is exactly what jack pine needs to start over again. So a fire-dependent species on a fire-dependent site. We know that it's dry. We've seen the sand. We know that the sand is coarse. It doesn't hold a lot of water. How does this get here? You know, what do we have? And if we think back to glaciers and water moving over or underneath them, they carry a lot of silts and sands. But in this case, this is a glacial outwash plain. So we have water moving with sands in it. As that water begins to slow down, those sands drop. There aren't any fines in here. There's no silts, there's no clays. Those sands drop, and then the water continues to move any of the smaller particles through off the site, and you just build up layers and layers and layers of coarse sands. If we look, this site was set up and developed that way, and then something quite unusual happened. If we pan across, and you can see a little bit of blacktop, that's the Mesabi Trail. And this used to be an old railroad bed. And so in making this railroad bed, all those railroad ties and the rails are now gone so people can ride their bikes. If you look all the way across, you can see about 3 feet above the railroad grade, which is now asphalt, is a little berm. And that little berm is where the old layer of soil, if you will, the glacial outwash plain used to be. And they put the railroad grade in, and they're keeping that at a certain percent grade. They'll take that extra sand all the way down to the next low area to deposit it, to fill it in, to make it easier to put the railroad across. So this area that we're standing on and been looking at now has been scraped clear of any organic matter that may have been building up on a poor soil to begin with, in essence making this site even worse than the site just across the Mesaba Bike Trail. So this is really probably 1 or 2 levels of fertility and moisture below what we see over there. And the species in the understory are completely different. For the most part, that is a planted red pine plantation. But even those trees aren't particularly happy, if you will. Growth between nodes is small. They're growing slowly. Jack pine might grow a little faster, but red pine is what got planted on that site. I think that's it.
Thank you for coming.